Hey, my name is Karina, and I want to put a video on the internet about um, Kundalini awakening and the things I've learned since my Kundalini was activated, or ever since I've known it was activated, which was 7 months ago. I don't usually do YouTube videos or put myself out there, but I think it's part of my own healing, and also there's some things that I just want to share because I know when this first started for me, I my mind wanted to find some information, and so this is basically what I wish I would have known about Kundalini or about what I was experiencing at the time. All right. So, to give you a background about me, about when this first started, you would have to know that um, I've had this connection to God. I'm going to say God. You can call it whatever you want, but it's just, I was raised Baptist. Uh, what's the word? Christian? Yeah. I forgot the word. So I was raised Baptist at a pretty young age, so it's just the word God is always stuck with me. And if that word triggers you, then be grateful because, triggers are a wonderful tool for self inquiry. But I've had this deep connection to God since, I can remember before 6 years old. One of my first memories actually was just being so angry that I was in a human body. And I was angry at God because I knew this wasn't it. And I was mad that I had to live a human life. Pretty deep shit for a little girl, but that's what it is. um, right, so last October, my life just I had just given up. Um, Everything was going wrong. I was completely alone, and I just told God, like, screw it. Like, the way I'm trying to live my life isn't working. And I knew that killing myself is pointless because I'm just gonna have another life. And I knew that if I killed myself, that the feeling that I have, this hopelessness, I just know it would carry over. Like, killing yourself doesn't fix the hopelessness. And so I was just like, okay, I'm going to live life, and it sucks. And I told God I give up. And I also had a coach at the time who I expressed to her that I would like to meditate again, and she gave me a couple pointers. So I started meditating by just observing my body, completely surrendering my mind's control. And before I knew it, I started having spontaneous kriyas. And growing up, Baptist, I was like, am I possessed? And looking back now, it's like so silly how, but yeah, because I didn't know about mudras. I mean, I've seen movies like, I feel like, is it The Lion King where there's that monkey doing a mudra? I don't know. I think that was my first experience seeing it. Does he do the monkey? Is that The Lion King? Um, I don't know. That's a side story. Anyway, so yeah, that started happening. Um, what else do I want to say about that? Right. Okay. I guess that's it for now until I think of something else. Um, kind of have a scattered brain, so please, forgive me. Hopefully my videos in the future, I'll be better at this thing. So, I want to differentiate a Kundalini awakening from a spiritual journey. Because when this happened to me, although I had this connection to God, I wasn't on a spiritual journey. Like, I did a lot of, what's the word? Where you look back on the crappy things you've done and you're like, oh, that sucked. Why'd I do that? Self-reflection. That's it. I did a lot of self-reflection, and but I wasn't on a spiritual journey. And what I know now is that this Kundalini awakening puts you on a spiritual journey that you basically don't get the option to give up on. You're on it. It's activated. And it puts you on that spiritual journey at, like, I want to say an accelerated rate. And, when I have been able to communicate this Kundalini thing with others who are also on a spiritual journey and who are open to the idea of Kundalini, they told me that I must have been on this spiritual journey in past lives for this to occur. And I don't know if that's true, but maybe in past lives I spent decades meditating. Who knows? But I know I'm on a spiritual journey now, and there's no stopping it. But if you're on a spiritual journey, that doesn't mean that your Kundalini is activated. In fact, I know spiritual meditation teachers who don't even believe in Kundalini, which will bring me to another point. Actually, kind of brings me to the point now that the average person isn't going to understand. Yeah. When this first started happening, I wanted to tell not everyone, because I knew if I told everyone that I was experiencing spontaneous kriyas, that there was a chance that, I don't know, it's just not safe, to be honest. But all the people who I was close to, I wanted to tell them what was going on, and I wanted them to understand and validate me, but they can't. They can't. There were the people who were kind of open a bit, being like, okay, she's having this experience and I've known her a while, so, I'm not too worried, but I'll just make sure she's being safe. There's always some level of concern with every single person I try to communicate, and then some people thought, I was hallucinating, or just don't expect the average person to understand. And for me, there was this urge to tell people because I felt so much better, like, emotionally. I experienced this state of bliss, and oh, I hope I don't get emotional thinking about it. For the first time in my life, I experienced the freedom of being myself. And I guess I don't know how to communicate how how free how free it feels. And for someone like me who lived my life in a hopeless state for, 3 decades, and then to have that happen, to experience that it doesn't have to be that way, but to experience it, and not with drugs or anything like that, but like completely, yeah, just you, and that the world accepted you. I wanted to share that with everyone. And I think that's very common in the beginning of something like this, is you experience this bliss and you want everyone else to experience that freedom as well. And that's something that I've grown out of. And I assure you, as you further yourself along in this path, you will also distance yourself from the idea that everyone else has to heal as you heal as well. Or, yeah, I think you know what I'm saying. Oh, yeah, so average people aren't gonna understand. Not just average people, though. People on a spiritual journey also may not understand. Like I said, I found a Kriya yoga teacher, and I was like, okay, I'm having spontaneous Kriyas, so I will see what this is about. Same word. Coming from that Christian background, I didn't know very much of, I didn't know the true meaning of yoga, even though I found out later that's what this Kundalini energy was when I surrendered to it, experiencing that state of yoga, something, whatever. But this person they just said they don't believe in spontaneous kriyas, and with that, I couldn't move forward, because not with myself, but with that teacher, because he was denying an experience that I was having, which is also part of my path, is people telling me that what I'm experiencing isn't what I'm actually experiencing. So, yeah, I can't be in the same space as someone who doesn't allow me to exist. I mean, what am I except for what I'm experiencing? I don't know. Oh, another thing is, just because your Kundalini is awakened does not mean you're an enlightened person. Like, maybe it's a spectrum. There are levels of like awakening, and this activation is just the beginning. Like, you haven't reached the final stage. Like, Kundalini energy is just this way of healing you. This very fast process of healing. So, just because I'm not enlightened, I haven't experienced a true ego death, or mind awakening, or there are so many levels to it. And that's something to be careful of, is there are a lot of people out there that, especially on YouTube, who have experienced a Kundalini activation or awakening, but their ego is still in play. Like, just learn how to discern. And, you naturally will, as long as you're surrendering to the energy, you will learn to discern along your path. And eventually you can just see through the bullshit. It gets easier. So, yeah, before this, I wasn't very connected with my intuition. Now I am. And it is the ego is so clever in its ways of interfering with my intuition. And that is something that on my path I'm getting better and better at recognizing. So, yeah, I just want to put that out there that, just because someone has an awakened Kundalini doesn't mean that they're going to do what is best for you necessarily. In fact, I believe that there are cult leaders who have an awakened Kundalini. So, and that's something I discovered when I was listening to this one person on YouTube, and he was talking about cleaning your space. And it was close to my birthday, and I was already thinking about cleaning my apartment anyway. And I was like, whoa, what a synchronicity or something. Then I ended up, something in me told me that something was off. My intuition. I say something, it's, And so I Googled that person's name, and I also added a cult after. And yeah, I got the results that I thought I would. So, yeah, there's that. Oh, another thing that I want to talk about is Kundalini energy, working with it. It's not always blissful. I was in a blissful state for a bit. I don't know exactly how long, but at the time I was talking to my ex-boyfriend, and he was just like, wow, you're just so different. Like, you're so happy, and you're just going with the flow, and like, it was kind of silly because in that blissful state, I was okay with whatever he did. He was free to be his own person, which is great, right? Because in the past, there would be this sense of control, because my mind used that sense of control when I was a kid to help keep me alive. But, so it was nice to be free of that sense of control. Although what he was doing wasn't how do I put it? He wasn't being very kind to me in a way. So he was just doing whatever he wanted without taking into consideration the relationship that we were healing together. So I was in that blissful state. I was just like, yeah, do whatever. I'm fine, I love being by myself and everything's great. Oh, I forgot how I got into that. Scatterbrain. Right, so I was in that blissful state for a bit. And then, as there are just things that he kept doing to like trigger me, and eventually it would get to me, and I got out of that blissful state. And so what it does is it exposes these triggers. so that you can do, self-inquiry, and so you can work on healing. And so I want to say it's kind of like a wave, like you heal, you feel better, you another trigger is exposed, you heal. Some people have told me it's like a spiral. Maybe it is, but I'm just talking about the two-dimension bliss or triggered over time. So, yeah, I think some people have this misconception that having an awakened Kundalini will fix all of your problems, and I guess that's like the goal, right? To heal, but it's not like your life is fixed. Healing doesn't end. Yeah, there is someone I know that is fully awakened, and even they, tell me that healing doesn't end. Even then, there's healing. And so that's just something to keep in mind. Let's see, I wrote down surrender. How gentle the Kundalini energy works with you. I want to lean towards saying like it depends on your karmic disposition. I have a very strong Mars and Jupiter. Mars is my strongest throughout all of my Varga, charts, and my Jupiter is exalted in my main birth chart. But my Mars is pretty, what am I trying to say? I think I am very grateful that I surrendered to the energy. And I think it was scary, but I knew that based on how I felt, how my life was improving so much, that this was a good thing. So I surrendered, and I also had a coach who had an awakened Kundalini as well, who guided me a bit, and I'm very grateful for her because I had someone who, was going through it, and she guided me into surrendering. And yeah, one thing I want to say is even when you think you're surrendering, you might not be. So I would be going into certain poses, and when I thought that I was surrendering, I was actually holding on to that pose that I was in. And as soon as I thought about it and it was like, oh, surrender, and I surrendered again, my body would move into another pose. So that's just something to keep in mind. This energy isn't meant to harm you at all. I don't know if it can harm you. I mean, I think it's very divine. I think it's the Holy Spirit. But what can create harm is your mind and the ideas that you can form around it. So watch out for that. Just trust, have faith, and surrender. Yeah. Oh, another thing is that this energy brought to my attention that I have some gifts, or maybe it's just like a very strong intuition now. And this was something that I had trouble with at first. Um, I mean, I think everyone who has had a awakened Kundalini experiences some, like, you know, phenomena that's otherworldly or seems like so psychic or something, like when sometimes in the dark my eyes would like flash lights out of it. I don't want to go too much into what has happened to me, but um it was brought to my attention that there are some gifts that I have. One in particular is divination. And unfortunately, um, well, I don't know if it's really unfortunate. Part of my healing path is to trust myself and to trust my intuition and to surrender with my faith, surrender to God. And my coach at the time was very experienced with tarot cards already. And so when I told them that I was experiencing spontaneous divination, they were very cautious of it, which made sense from their perspective. But it it put me through my own little process of doubting myself. And yeah, I mean, I don't doubt it at all anymore. And certainly, like I mentioned before, the ego will infiltrate things, your intuition, um, even with those who have an awakened Kundalini. So I am very grateful for the warning and for the process that I had to go through. Um, not sure if there's anything else I want to say. I feel like, well, 27 minutes is a lot, considering I don't usually do this stuff. Hopefully I will be more concise next time. Thank you for your understanding that this is my first video. And yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know. Maybe I can answer them. And that's all. Yeah, hope you have a good day. Bye.